Yes, I suppose there are a few places where people have been raised from the dead in the Bible. Elijah the Tishbite was told Ahab, "As the Lord God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word." Then the Lord told Elijah to go out, drink from a brook, and he's directed ravens to supply him with food there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. And the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Jeez. So the Lord was giving him everything he wanted, but he could have, at a word, gotten rain, but he didn't. So the Lord came to him and said, "Go to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I've directed a widow there to supply you with food." So I went to Zarephath. So this guy is standing there with the ability to bring rain at any time, but he decides to have this widow supply him with food. So when he came to the town gate, a widow was gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink?" As she was going to get it, he called, "Bring me, please, a piece of bread." She said, "As surely as the Lord your God lives," she replied, "I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I'm gathering a few sticks to take home and to make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." So this is rather fascinating. She is preparing a poisoned meal, it sounds like to me. I don't know what it sounds like to you. And Elijah says to her, "Don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first make a small loaf of bread for me, what you have, and bring it to me, and then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land." That's so fascinating, because earlier you said, "As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word." She went and did as Elijah told her, so there was food every day for the woman and her family, for the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. But I guess sometime later, the woman of the house who owned the house became ill. The son of the woman became ill. He grew worse and worse, and finally stopped breathing. She said to Elijah, "What have you done against me, man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son?" So Elijah replies, "Give me your son." He took him from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. Then he cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, you have brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with by causing her son to die." Then he stretched himself out on the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him." The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elijah picked up the child and carried him down from the room in the house. He gave him to his mother and said, "Look, your son is alive." Then the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth." So what happens next? Will he give the word and have dew and rain? After a long time, in the 3rd year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send the rain on the land." So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his palace administrator. Obadiah was a devout believer in the Lord. While Jezebel was killing off the Lord's prophets, Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them in 2 caves, 50 in each, and had supplied them with food and water. Ahab had said to Obadiah, "Go through the land to all the springs and valleys. Maybe we can find some grass to keep the horses and mules alive so we do not have to kill any of our animals." So they divided the land they were to cover, Ahab going one direction and Obadiah in another. As Obadiah was walking along, Elijah met him. Obadiah recognized him, bowed down to the ground, and said, "Is it really you, my lord Elijah?" "Yes," he replied. "Go tell your master Elijah is here." "What have I done wrong," asked Obadiah, "that you are handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death?" What? "As surely as the Lord your God lives, there is not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you, And whenever a nation or kingdom claimed that you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you. But now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here. This is very strange. If I tell Ahab that you are here, Ahab will put me to death, because whenever a nation or kingdom claimed you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you. But now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here. I don't know where the Spirit of the Lord may carry you when I leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he doesn't find you, he will kill me. Yet I, your servant, have worshipped the Lord since my youth. Haven't you heard, my lord, what I did while Jezebel was killing the prophets of the Lord? I hid 100 of the Lord's prophets in 2 caves, 50 in each, and supplied them with food and water. And now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here. He will kill me. Elijah said, As the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will surely present myself to Ahab today. There's something about this story that tells me that this is not a man but a ghost. How can she have so much doubt? How can she have so much fear that saying Elijah is here and being afraid that that Ahab will kill her if he's really there? So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When he saw Elijah, he said to him, Is that you, troubler of Israel? I have not made trouble for Israel, Elijah replied. But you and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's command and have followed Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table. So he did show up. He did stay. Ahab found him. He wasn't a ghost. So Ahab sent word throughout all Israel, and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elijah went before the people and said, How long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. But the people said nothing. Elijah said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. What happened to the 100 of the Lord's prophets that Obadiah hid in 2 caves? But Elijah says to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left. So I guess the ones that were in the 100 prophets that were in the 2 caves did not survive, perhaps? But Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God who answers by fire, he is God. Then all the people said, What you say is good. Really? Okay, I guess. I wouldn't agree. Nope. I've seen enough fire. Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, Choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire. So they took the bull given them, and prepared it. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. Baal, answer us, they shouted, but there was no response. No one answered, and they danced around the altar they had made. At noon Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened. So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, Come here to me. They came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, Your name shall be Israel. With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. That is probably about 24 pounds or 11 kilograms. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, Fill 4 large jars with water, and pour it on the offering, and on the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a third time, he ordered, and they did it a third time. The water ran down around the altar and even filled the trench. At the time of the sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and I have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. When all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God! Then Elijah commanded them, Seize the prophets of Baal. Don't let anyone get away. They seized them, and Elijah had them brought down to the Kishon valley and slaughtered there. And Elijah said to Ahab, Go, eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain. So Ahab went off to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed to the top of Carmel, bent down to the ground, and put his face between his knees. Go and look toward the sea, he told his servant, and he went up and looked. There is nothing there, he said. 7 times Elijah said, Go back. The 7th time the servant reported, A cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea. So it took some time, and the first sight of clouds was a very, very small cloud. But then he said, Go and tell Ahab, hitch up your chariot and go down before the rain stops you. Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds, the wind rose, a heavy rain started falling, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. The power of the Lord came on Elijah, and tucking his cloak into his belt, he ran ahead of Ahab all the way to Jezreel. Okay, there's a couple of really curious verses that sound strange to me here. 1 Kings 17:12. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, so that we may eat it and die. And Elijah says, Don't be afraid, go home and do as you have said, but make a small loaf of bread for me first, then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry, until the Lord sends rain on the land. So I don't know what she means by that we may eat it and die, but if they did eat something and die, it would make sense that the jar of flour and the jug of oil did not get used up, because, well, dead people don't use jars of flour and jugs of oil. On the other hand, it could also be that they're eating sticks, and maybe the sticks are providing a certain amount of sustenance, and by eating sticks, eventually the son of the woman who owned the house became ill, and he finally stopped breathing,